Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Monday, August 17th, 2020. And today I'm going to be taking a look at a 2020 tracker for the money spent this week. In the upcoming DNC, Democratic Convention week, we have 4 days of programming on many major news companies where the American public will hear from notable Democratic officials about why they should be voting for Joe Biden. So for the next 4 days, all we will see is Democratic dominated headlines. And of course, the Trump campaign is going to try to be spending money during that time period. So we're using mediumbuying.com. They pretty much track where campaigns spend their TV ad resources. Essentially, they're looking at where Senate candidates, House candidates, governor candidates, and obviously presidential candidates are spending their money in terms of local markets. So obviously there are national ads, and during the DNC, the Trump campaign is likely to play them. However, in this next upcoming week between the 18th to the 24th, that's just how they're allocating their ad spending, we are only seeing certain states being focused on heavily in terms of local markets. So right here, it actually tells you where the money is being spent in Arizona, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. So for a visual aid, let's characterize all of those states. These are all states that Donald Trump carried in 2016. Arizona and Georgia and North Carolina were by a 3% margin or higher. Florida and Wisconsin were closer to a percentage. So these 5 states, the reason why this is so significant is because Donald Trump is now playing defense, not offense. When we're talking about a presidential election campaign and you're running for re-election, if you do expect to win, typically you win by a larger margin. Only 2 presidents have ever been re-elected by a smaller margin than their first election. The first one was Woodrow Wilson, and the second was Barack Obama. So if Trump is to win a re-election, it looks like he's acknowledging that he's going to lose certain states. The reason why I'm making this video is because there are some notable absences on this map, as you can tell from the title of this video. He is not spending money in Michigan or Pennsylvania during the most important TV ad spending week, I would say, for the Trump campaign. Because they have free coverage, essentially, not free coverage, but practically free coverage when it comes down to the RNC. And whether or not the mainstream media will be allowed in or which media sources will be, that's all up to the RNC to decide. And obviously, if they don't have too many notable sources in, it's going to be very detrimental to the campaign itself. But looking at where the DNC is pretty much getting their programming for the next 4 days, there's going to be a lot of focus on Democratic officials, on Joe Biden, on Kamala Harris, on all these officials that are speaking. President Obama is supposed to speak, AOC is supposed to speak, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren. So all these top names are coming together on top of some other Republican names. Today, actually, we will see a surprise congressman endorsing Joe Biden, apparently, according to John Kasich speaking at the DNC. So that should be very surprising as well. But Trump is pretty much spending money in only these 81 electoral votes as we go through the DNC week. And I think this is actually very indicative of where the Trump campaign believes they're at right now nationwide. Biden is up 7.5% in Michigan. He's up 7% in Pennsylvania. He's up 7% in Wisconsin. So why would all of a sudden, the Trump campaign drop Michigan and Pennsylvania? Well, it's not exactly like the Trump campaign is all of a sudden dropping Michigan. I made a video about how the Trump campaign withdrew their ads from Michigan, I believe 2-3 weeks ago. And that was pretty significant. I mean, Michigan is a state that Donald Trump carried, and it's 16 electoral votes. It was very similar to when John McCain gave up Michigan, except John McCain gave up Michigan in October 2008. Trump withdrew ads in late July, early August 2020. So when we look at Michigan, the Trump campaign could still theoretically win in Michigan, but it seems to be matching the national average. And as long as Joe Biden leads nationwide, he leads in Michigan. You can't say the same for Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, though they do tend to come closer to the national average, meaning there's 7-point margins of victory for Joe Biden at this point. So why is he only focusing on Wisconsin? Well, percent-wise, Wisconsin was the largest margin of victory for Donald Trump out of these 3 states. It was 0.77%. Pennsylvania was 0.72%. But what's different? Hillary Clinton was born in Pennsylvania, and so was Joe Biden. However, Joe Biden doesn't, he never fails to throw that into at least one part of his speech every single time he speaks to the American people. So when we look at Pennsylvania, this is the state that the Democratic Party will likely not take for granted again. They held the DNC here in 2016. We're really expecting to carry this state in 2016, and this was the only state that actually was too big of a surprise. Because the Hillary Clinton campaign, when they allocated over $100 million in ad spending, they did not include Wisconsin or Michigan in their initial list in June 2016. And that's where the biggest mistake was made in that campaign. Pennsylvania, of course, was included. I mean, they spent over $30 million in Pennsylvania and still lost. However, Donald Trump outspent Hillary Clinton in the general election in Wisconsin and Michigan. And if you look at the data, it says Hillary Clinton spent more in Michigan, but that was because of the Democratic primary, not because of the fact that, not because of the general election mainly. So in the final 2 weeks of the campaign, they did have a final push in Michigan. They held that rally with notable Democratic officials, but it wasn't enough to put her over that finish line in Michigan. And Michigan was the closest. It was 11,000 votes that decided the difference. It was 22,000 in Wisconsin, 44,000 in Pennsylvania. But percent-wise, Wisconsin was the largest. So I see why the Trump campaign would target Wisconsin out of the three. Michigan seems to be lost. The auto bailout is going to be a huge thing that the Biden campaign is going to bring back up. Pennsylvania, Biden always mentions that he's from that state, and the Democratic Party is covering every single base when it comes to this campaign. For Wisconsin, this is the only state that I truly think they have the weakest grip on, but I still think they're going to carry it. When I say weakest, it still means that they have a 60-70% chance at carrying Wisconsin. But if we look at North Carolina, and we look at Arizona, and we look at Georgia and Florida, these are all states that the Biden campaign is on the offense for. Hillary Clinton did not carry these states. Barack Obama only carried 2 of them in 2008 and only 1 of them out of the 4. But now all of them are competitive. Arizona actually has Biden leading. North Carolina does as well, and so does Florida. So out of these 4 states, Biden leads in 3 of them, despite, North Carolina hasn't gone to a Democrat since 2008. Florida went in 2012. Arizona, I believe, let me go ahead and take a look, 96. That means Georgia was 92. So when we look at all of these states, I mean, they have had a pretty long period of time where they haven't voted for a Democrat. I mean, Florida, most notably in the 2018 midterm elections, moved over to the Republican Party. So for Biden to be leading here, the Trump campaign is recognizing that. They're not playing dumb. I mean, they're not going about this campaign too horribly. I will say that them spending money in New Mexico and New York is definitely a waste of money, but hey, it's campaign funds. I'm not going to be the one who checks them on that. But looking at these 5 states, it makes sense that the Trump campaign would be focusing here. Just I really would like to have seen Michigan and Pennsylvania included if I was on the Trump campaign. Because these are 2 states that once Michigan goes, I mean, Michigan's pretty much a given at this point for Biden. If Pennsylvania goes, that's 20 electoral votes you've lost. Because if Biden carries Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, it's game over. Doesn't matter. Trump could carry Arizona, he could carry Georgia, he could carry North Carolina, he could carry Florida, Ohio, Iowa, even New Hampshire. If Biden wins the 3 Rust Belt states, game over. He wins. So at this point, I mean, it makes sense that Trump is spending money in Wisconsin, but the fact that he's not in Pennsylvania and Michigan on TV ads in the most important week for him to do so, when everyone's going to be glued to their TV screens between 8 to 10 p.m. for the next 4 days, that is very, very significant. So I know some people are going to bring up the fact that the Trump campaign announced that they were withdrawing ads to reassess their campaign's purpose, assess what they're going to be putting out in TV ads. But that's a cover. I mean, they've been sending out the same ads since 2015 for the Trump campaign. Nothing has changed fundamentally for the Trump campaign and what they stand for. I mean, a lot of the promises made, promises kept, a lot of them have been broken. I mean, so he can't really harp on the wall. He can't be focused on Hillary Clinton's emails. He can't be focused on, I mean, as much as she lives in his head rent-free, and I will say that without a doubt. Today, he spoke about Hillary Clinton 4 years later after she lost the election, and she is still there. I mean, it's practically, I would say that's wrong from a very, very, at least for me, trying to put this in an unbiased point of view. He should not be mentioning 2016 whatsoever, because as soon as he mentions 2016, I mean, it's free reign for all the things that he said back then, all the promises he made can be brought back up and say, you didn't do this. I mean, Hillary Clinton is not in jail. The wall was not built. If anything, it's a fence, and it's still not being done. Obamacare was not repealed and replaced. A lot of the promises that were fundamental to this campaign were not put all together. And I understand that he has finished some of those smaller promises, but those were the major things of his campaign. I mean, the locker up chants, all of those things could easily be ran against him in these states. So now he's not focusing on Michigan and Pennsylvania. And why were Michigan and Pennsylvania Trump states to begin with? Well, mainly because Hillary Clinton gave a very disingenuous feel to these people. Pennsylvania was the only real shocker. Michigan and Wisconsin, these were states that were forgotten by the Democratic Party. So when we saw these states as toss-ups on election night, I mean, it was sort of a long time coming. These states have all voted for the Democratic Party for decades, 24 years at least, for some of these states, 28 years. So they've always gone with the Democratic Party for nearly 3 decades, and they go to Donald Trump. They didn't even go to Bush. I mean, Bush came close. They didn't go to McCain. They didn't go to Romney. They didn't go to Dole. They didn't go to H.W. Bush. So these states, some of them, the last time they went for a Republican was in 84. And even Minnesota, which was close in 2016, has the longest streak of any state for voting for the Democratic Party, at least. The only state with a continuous streak of voting for the Democratic Party is the only state that didn't go for Ronald Reagan on election night in 84. So these 4 states are competitive, but Trump is not spending money where he needs to be. I understand he needs to play offense. I'm not saying that's wrong. He absolutely should be spending money in these 4 states. I'd like to have seen him include Texas. I'd like to have seen him include Ohio and Iowa, but it seems that he's very confident in these states. The Trump campaign does not think they're going to lose them, but they're acknowledging that they might be losing in these 4 states in the South. And then in the Rust Belt, I mean, they're not including Michigan. They're not including Pennsylvania. And this is week after week. We're not seeing Michigan included. And now Pennsylvania drops off the list. That is very important, very indicative of where the Trump campaign believes they stand in these states. Because it's either they're not spending money there because they know it's safe, or they think it's safe, or because they are think they're going to lose it. So Michigan and Pennsylvania, I wouldn't say that they think it's safe there. They definitely think that the Biden campaign has a strong hold on those states. Now, digital ad spending is going to be spent nationwide in a number of states. You can't deny that. Facebook ad money is definitely going to be a big thing. But TV ads is where it's going to be at for the next 4 days, and Trump's campaign isn't doing it right in Michigan or Pennsylvania. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. If you're in my Discord, there is a Discord decided election night on there, so go ahead and check the announcements page. You can go ahead and see what's on there. If you haven't joined the Discord yet, there's a link to the server at the bottom left of the screen. On the screen, there's a video you can watch and then a playlist for my 2020 election predictions. Today is day 1 of the DNC. I will give you guys updates on what I think did well tonight tomorrow. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you all later today.